All right, being live streamed. It's exactly what I was hoping to see. We're getting locked and loaded here. They say Thursday is the new Friday. That's what I've heard. And I think
that'd be nice if they gave us 3-day weekends from now on.
I think we are ready to roll. Hoosier Nation, look, they never said it was going to be easy. I was there in Bowling Green, Kentucky to see all the action go down. My good friend and co-contributor Jevin McCoskey was too. And initially we thought Indiana football was going to just march right into Western Kentucky and come out with an easy victory. It was a nail biter, a butt cheek clencher until the very last play. But we're going to save the football for a little bit later on this episode of the Hoosier Sound. We're going to start the last September episode of this podcast talking about Hoosier Hysteria, which is upon us. The first in-person IU basketball experience for the first time at Assembly Hall since March 2020. We're going to get into that and football and so much more here on episode 219. Shout out the region on episode 219 of the Hoosier Sound, where we are the official podcast of Indiana HQ. Tonight, I'm joined by my normal co-host, Matt Lukens. Matt, Hoosier Hysteria is here. Assembly Hall's going to be packed. I saw that doors will open at 2:30. People can start lining up outside Assembly Hall as early as 7 a.m., weather permitting. Talk to me, Matt. You can smell IU basketball in the air, can't you?
You can. There's, what do they call it? Palpable optimism, and I'm buying into that as well, because I will be there on Saturday to see the Hoosiers run out onto the Assembly Hall floor for the first time since, well, right before the Big Ten tournament in 2020, which feels like a billion years ago, by the way, but also feels like yesterday. Kind of crazy. They say as you get older, like the days become shorter, and I didn't think anything about it, but then I feel like everybody this past year has had that happen to them. So, or year and a half, I guess. So it's crazy. I'm super excited to just see the players playing again in person, even though I did go to the Florida State game in person. Though it's nice because I can't see the Blues this time. There's not any possible way in which I could see the Blues. So that'll be nice.
And yeah, and I mean, let's face it, Assembly Hall is just such a better basketball facility than what's the Seminoles arena called? Do you remember on the top of your head?
It's so insignificant.
It's in Tallahassee. I mean, what are you gonna do? Although shout out to Florida State, they're a really good basketball program, not a great football program, not a good football program.
They used to be a good football program.
Very clear, horrible football program. The fun starts on Saturday. Yep, October 2nd, and hey, we mentioned this on the podcast before, but way to go for the men's basketball program and the football program at IU to communicate and make sure that these two events don't overlap. I know in years prior, they like to really plan these things out well in advance, but hey, if there's one thing the pandemic taught us is what does planning even mean, really? It's officially a 4 p.m. start on Saturday. Like I said earlier, doors open at 2:30. Fans can line up weather permitting starting at 7 a.m. I thought it was funny in the press release. They said, hey, you know, if the conditions are there, you might see some people hand out some snacks outside Assembly Hall for those who are waiting in line. There are going to be 3 main speakers, as far as I know, according to the details released by the school. And those 3 will be, understandably, Terry Morin, the women's basketball head coach, Mike Woodson, the men's basketball head coach. And then if you hadn't heard, the 3rd speaker on Saturday will be Hoosier legend Isaiah Thomas, the point guard who has accomplished so much in his career. Of course, starting starting with his collegiate career at Indiana. Those 3 will speak in front of the Assembly Hall crowd. And then there are going to be 3 competitions. And you're going to see the men's basketball players and the women's basketball players working together. Just to keep it clean on this podcast this week, this episode, we're going to focus on the men's basketball participants, all of whom, all the scholarship players will take part in this event, except for one, as far as the competitions are concerned. And that's Michael Durr. Michael Durr, we don't know anything about an injury. We don't know anything as far as his availability for this weekend's activities or even the start of the season. We're not sure. I know Indiana has started men's basketball practice here, so we'll keep our keen eye out to see, or our ear out to see if there's any updates on Michael Durr's condition. But setting him aside, let's talk about the three competitions that we've got. We got the skills competition, the 3-point shootout, and then the dunk contest. Matt, the skills competition is Rob Finnessy, Xavier Johnson, and then how about two bigs thrown in there, Logan Duncombe and Race Thompson. Now, I'm not sure what all the skills competition is going to entail, but who do you think's going to win this one between Finnessy, Johnson, Duncombe, and Race Thompson?
That's a good question. Honestly, give me the senior. Give me Finnessy.
He's got a little chip on his shoulder, doesn't he? I think he's going to come out Saturday ready to prove a point, even if it's in an exhibition setting. By the way, following the skills competition, the men's team will hold a basketball workout on the assembly hall floor. I know normally we see a scrimmage. They stop short of saying there's going to be a scrimmage, but we'll see what kind of manifests as far as that's concerned. Of course, I know Hoosier fans will just be happy to see their players on the court participating in these things. I'm gonna look at a dark horse here. Okay, let's see what Logan Duncombe has up his sleeve. Look, we haven't heard anything about Logan. We didn't see him play in the Bahamas. We didn't see him do anything as far as that's concerned. Let me see a little, definite dark horse, definite wild card pick here. He might be a little bit more motivated to prove something in Hoosier Hysteria compared to an established player. I don't know, again, what all the obstacles and the tricks and the activities are going to be part of the skills competition. But, hey, I'm going to keep an eye out for Logan Duncombe here as far as winning the skills competition is concerned. All I know is it should be exciting. Let's go to two other competitions that have a lot more clarity surrounding them. Matt, the 3-point shootout. This is going to be such a sight for sore eyes after what we saw the previous year. It's going to be such a sigh of relief for Hoosier fans. The 4 3-point shooters are Anthony Leal, Tamar Bates, Parker Stewart, and Miller Kopp. Who's your pick as far as a 3-point shootout is concerned?
I feel like the obvious pick would be Miller Kopp. However,
I'm not sure there is an obvious.
I'm not going with the obvious pick because I think there's somebody who's much better in the gym shooting. I'm going to say that's Anthony Leal. I think Anthony Leal is one of those guys who will show this year that he can do it in game, but is just absolutely cracked out and like no distractions, no hands in the face, not rushing the shot, just taking a practice 3-pointer. I feel like Anthony Leal is really good at that. I mean, he grew up in Bloomington, probably just living with a shooting and rebounding machine. So give me Anthony Leal.
Yeah, Anthony Leal, of course, he's going to have another offseason under his belt. Another player we did not see take part in the Bahamas there, Anthony Leal. So, we'll see what he can do as far as Saturday is concerned. I'm going to take Parker Stewart. Okay, can we finally see Parker Stewart play on the court at Assembly Hall? Come on. I remember hearing stories even early on after he transferred to Indiana. I think what was it? I don't know, months and months ago.
Yeah.
Coming over from Tennessee Martin about how Parker Stewart was just an automatic bucket in open gym, automatic bucket at Cook Hall. Let's see what he's got. Okay. I want to see him put up a robust performance in the 3-point shootout. I think Parker Stewart's going to win it, but I'll just say this. This is going to be, I'm fired up. I'm more excited about the 3-point shootout than the other two. Events between the dunk contest and the skills. I see these 4 guys here, and hey, Tamar Bates, we know Miller Kopp can shoot. Tamar Bates, if Tamar Bates is up there with Kopp and with Leal and with Stewart, wow. I mean, talk about a 5-star prospect who has an unlimited ceiling. If he can show you, that sort of thing. Wow, what a pleasant surprise that would be. And one thing I'm also going to pay attention to, sort of as far as details are concerned, are there certain players out of these 4 guys who are really effective at a certain part of the floor, right? Is there a corner 3-point shooting expert that we see on Saturday?
Sure.
Is there a guy who's just swishing all his threes from dead on, straight on? I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. So, Matt, I know you've got Anthony Leal. I got Parker Stewart, but just bottom line, I'm more excited to see this one compared to any other contest on Saturday at Assembly Hall. And then the last one's a dunk contest, okay? And you can sort of think about who the other 4 guys are, because I told you Michael Durr wasn't in it, but just to clarify, Jordan Geronimo, Trey Galloway, Trace Jackson Davis, and Christian Lander?
That was my reaction to seeing him on there. But
what do you think?
That's only signals good things if he's on the dunk contest, because I don't remember seeing him dunk at all last year. So obviously, to be in the dunk contest, it means you have to dunk the ball. I don't know, newsflash, but I think that's a really good thing. It shows like he's obviously his athleticism is growing. He's unlocked a part of his game, and that looks really good for his future.
All I'm saying, you could have easily swapped, right? Tamar Bates and Christian Lander, 3-point shootout and dunk, but they didn't.
No.
Maybe I know. Maybe they know something I don't.
Maybe they do. I think Trace has to be the favorite, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's got to be a favorite. I think Geronimo wins this.
Oh, really?
I think Geronimo clearly wins this, by the way.
Wow.
Like, Trace is like, what? You can just get on your tippy toes. You can touch the rim. Like, Geronimo's like only a couple inches shorter than him, but like Geronimo's going to like put his head in the rim. So give me Geronimo.
Huh.
Galloway's not a bad shout
sneaky, right? Yeah.
Because he's shorter. It's the Will Sheehy type, you know? He can be explosive.
All I'm gonna say is if Christian Lander puts on a show in this dunk contest, I just quit. It's gonna completely reshape everything I knew about this IU basketball team.
Yeah, my optimism will go into the roof and
be like, wow. I mean, I would just be stuck. Trace Jackson Davis is my pick. Because obviously he has the athleticism and the height, but if he can combine some moves there too, show me a 360, show me a 360 windmill, something off the backboard, jumping over a chair or a person or an animal. Look,
an animal.
Look, hey, the dunk contest is where you get creative. Okay, don't give me that look. All I'm saying is there's a chance to be creative. Look, Indiana University doesn't have a mascot. Maybe this would be an opportunity for the Hoosiers to inaugurate. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. But look, it's going to be a really fun Saturday. I mean, not only do we have these 3 events to talk about, but Matt, just zooming out, I mean, you got 2 basketball programs here, the women and the men, who are entering a very, very exciting season for all of IU basketball fans across America and around the world. I mean, it's a reason for optimism, right? I mean, that's what's the most important thing to take away from this, no matter who wins what competition. Bottom line, right, is that it's an opportunity for IU basketball fans, for men and women, to be optimistic.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun event for everybody to be there. It's just going to be like family coming back together, because we've all missed each other for like the past year and a half. It's been painful too, but it really is like a coming. No, seriously, it is like a coming together of the family. Like, you got Woodson coming back, and I'm sure there'll be some more surprise guests.
Isaiah's coming back.
Isaiah's coming. There'll be some more surprise guests. I am sure that somebody who used to coach for IU and lives in Bloomington, I would not be surprised if he attends the event, given the fact that Woodson's back and Isaiah's there. That would be the least surprising.
Dane Fife.
That's right. Wow. How did you know? Dan Dockich. Wow.
Wow. Oh man. Hey, I know the folks who run Hoosier Hysteria usually have a trick or two for the people who are in attendance there. So I would not be surprised if you were spot on with that prediction. I would be remiss if I did not mention this aspect. Of course, those attending, as is Hoosier Hysteria tradition, are asked to donate a canned food item to benefit the Hoosier Hills Food Bank. So make sure you bring one if you are so able to. Really exciting afternoon in store. I'm, of course, looking forward as well to just hearing Terry Morn and Mike Woodson address the crowd. I mean, what an opportunity this is going to be for Mike Woodson, right? It's almost going to be like you're attending mass, right? He's going to be Mike Woodson, the pastor, is going to be on the court, and he's going to guide the entire, the entire army, the entire Hoosier Nation army together, hand in hand, locked arm in arm to whatever destiny Indiana basketball will have this year. Should be exciting. Of course, we got some behind the scenes footage over on Twitter that Mike Woodson put out there. I think it was yesterday, which is Wednesday, on this podcast, where we actually got to hear him address the team at either during or after their first practice on Wednesday. And I was just mentioning in our back channels that we didn't see that really in the Tom Crean or Archie Miller era. So getting a little bit more access, getting a little bit more transparency already with this basketball program should be exciting. Of course, the action takes place on Saturday. Doors open at 2:30. The action starts at 4 o'clock. And of course, we've put our predictions out there as far as who we think will take the cake in each event. Now, before we get to football, it's time for Who Won the Week this past week in IU Sports, where we try to see someone be on the football program or the men's basketball program to pick out a Hoosier player or alum that really crushed it in life. And our Who Won the Week nominee for what's taken place over the last week or so is Tennessee Titans receiver Nick Westbrook, who formerly was known as Nick Westbrook as he played for the Indiana Hoosiers, but he's made an addition to his name. And how about his career afternoon at Nissan Stadium in Nashville? I know it was at the expense of those of you who are Colts fans out there. I'm just jealous that you guys put 16 points on the board, and that's coming from someone who's a Chicago Bears fan. But look, Nick Westbrook, a wonderful performance on Saturday. 4 receptions, 53 yards. Both of those were career highs, and he scored his first career touchdown in the National Football League. Someone who's put in so much work, whether it was at Indiana, where he was not expected to be wide receiver 1 at any point in his career, and now was a special teams guy early on in the NFL. And hey, he got a chance to rise up on Sunday. 4 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. By the way, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are major injury doubts for this coming Sunday for Tennessee. You might see Nick Westbrook put up an even bigger day coming up on Sunday. The Hoosier Sound's not going to give you fantasy football advice, but the Titans do have a pretty good matchup against the Jets. So you don't be surprised if Nick Westbrook puts up big numbers. But just a reminder for those of you who are listening, if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast for free, all you have to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay up to date with all of our information by following us on Twitter at Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound. If you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. That kind of support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. All right, Matt, let's put our football helmets back on here. Indiana, Western Kentucky, week 4. IU got out of Dodge with a victory, 33-31 against the Hilltoppers. Michael Penix Jr. and Ty Freifogel, just like good times, just like old times, they really led the charge for this IU football team. Penix finished 35 of 53 for 373 yards passing, also ran in a sneak for a touchdown. Ty Freifogel, a wonderful 10-catch, 98-yard performance. Matt, take the floor here. What were 1 or 2 of your big takeaways from IU's 2-point win? The Hoosiers are now 2-2.
Thank God we won that game. Second week in a row, we started up 14-0, and at least this game we won. It was the weirdest watching experience of all time, because we're not counting on the offense for IU to do very well, and they kept doing fairly decently. And you kept hoping for the defense to perform like they had been, and they just were not. But I feel like that has a lot to do with Western Kentucky's offense than it does with IU's defense. That offense is for absolute losers to play. Absolute losers. That is the dumbest offensive system, and it works. Like, you should like want to be the loser that plays like some stupid, finicky offensive system. And I wish we were, because that was painful experience to go through. Like, I don't know what as a defensive coordinator what you do because you like
Nothing.
okay,
That's the answer, Matt.
Yeah,
The answer is nothing.
You can't do anything against that offense. That offense is ridiculous. Okay, they speed up, so you can't substitute people in. Your defense gets tired. They're throwing the ball like 3 yards down the field, and then they're getting a first down because they've broken your corner's ankles like 12 times because they're running every single different route in the game, like at any given moment. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's great that offense is so complicated and complex and just absurd, and they run it very well. I would not be surprised to see that West Kentucky team in a very nice bowl with like 10 wins at the end of the year, with the only 2 losses being to us and to Army. That's not a bad thing.
Well, and that says a lot because they've got Michigan State coming up on Saturday, and maybe
Michigan State's gonna have a
maybe Western Kentucky loses that game, but especially if an offense like that is not in your conference, right? If you play them every year, then you have some things up your in your playbook and in your strategic meetings to address that. But a non-conference type situation like this, it was a really tough ask for this Indiana defense to do great.
Pins and needles.
And we even predicted that. I think both of us had Indiana giving up something like 24 or 27 points in that game. And so Western Kentucky put up 31. And the last touchdown was really when Indiana was playing in a prevent shell for the most part, protecting a 9-point lead. Good call on the weirdness of the TV broadcast. Fortunately, I was in person at Houchin Smith Stadium at Western Kentucky, but we had a TV up in the press box there. And every time I looked over to catch a replay or to see, get a better angle on the game, I was like, why is the camera there? And why are they showing that? And why are they going to commercial now? And why are they coming back from commercial now? And the Twitter feedback was just the same. I apologize to all of you had to deal with that.
I don't know what happened with these sports networks and like adding extra networks. Like, you didn't have good camera operators to begin with in a lot of games, and now you just add extra games and extra camera operators, and you think it's just going to get better or even be somewhat viable. Like, it was honestly awful. There's multiple plays on Saturday where they would hike the ball and they would focus on the quarterback, and then they'd throw the ball, and then the camera wouldn't follow the ball.
It'd still be on the quarterback. Yeah, I know.
It's simple stuff. Like, the cameraman is like looking away from the camera, watching the game himself. Oh, I have a job. Okay.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, right. Yeah, delayed reaction. Yeah. Hey, I will say Bailey Zappi, the Western Kentucky quarterback, he finished 31 of 44 for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. He also ran for 6 yards. I think when you look at Indiana's 21 season in a nutshell, when it's all said and done, I think Zappi is going to be the best thrower of the football Indiana faces in the entire slate.
Where is he throwing the football? He's throwing the football within 5 yards.
No. Hold on. There were plenty of deep shots that he took. And he's not that dual threat. He's a solo threat, a single threat. And for him to, as far as naturally throwing the football, I really liked what I saw from him. I do want to shout this out. For those of you who don't know, I'm a big analytics guy. I'm a big numbers guy. I have no idea, like zero idea, why Western Kentucky decided to punt from the IU 48-yard line on 4th and 1. The Western Kentucky 48-yard line on 4th and 1 early in the fourth quarter. Western Kentucky had Indiana's defense solved for the most part, and it was a 2-point game. At this point, it was 26-24 Indiana. And for whatever reason, Tyson Helton, the Western Kentucky coach, decided to send his punt team on after they picked up 14 on a 3rd and 15, 4th and 1 from the Western Kentucky 49. They punted it away. And hey, shout out to the Indiana offense, who was moving the ball down the field all game, except for one or two series there in the second half. They pounded the ball with Stephen Carr. He ended up punching it into the end zone with about 5 minutes to go, gave Indiana a 9-point lead. And even though Western Kentucky scored at the end of the day, the Hoosiers were able to use that touchdown to really clinch the victory. I heard Helton say earlier this week that he was just confident in his defense. And to that, I say, if you're confident in your defense, well, then you should be trying out this 4th and 1 so that if you do miss, your defense can prevent a touchdown when Indiana takes over at midfield. So I don't know. Hey, I don't get paid the salaries and the wages that these big time head coaches get paid. But when I just know Hoosier Nation in general, seeing your comments on Twitter, I know all of you breathed a sigh of relief when you saw the punt team come on there. So I guess thanks to Tyson Helton. Indiana, again, it was a tough matchup, but the Hoosiers offense really delivered. Michael Penix, Ty Freifogel, and Peyton Hendershot. Matt, talk to me. Well, it's a good sign, right? It's a good sign that those were the 3 pieces on the IU offense. And we'll throw Stephen Carr in there too. Those are the 4 pieces on the IU offense that really drove the Hoosiers win on Saturday night.
I thought the players played well. I thought the players played fantastically well, except for maybe some of the offensive line, but they haven't played well all season, so that's just a given.
What can you ask?
I mean, it's bad.
They kept Penix upright. I guess.
Yes. It's like, wow, congratulations, you did your job. Surprising. Like I don't know.
But anyway,
my one gripe with the offense, players played great. Penix looked like himself. You guys don't need to have a degree in sports to understand
PhD in football, yeah.
Right. You don't even understand. The play calling inside of the opponent's 40-yard line. Abysmal. They know we're running it on first down every time. Please, for the love of everything that's good and holy, throw in a play action pass on down 1. It's not that hard.
Throwing a screen.
2, Penix has shown that he can run the ball again. That's fine. He's also shown that he can slide. Why hasn't he been allowed to take the ball on read option plays? Because we've had multiple read option plays where he just hands the ball off and Stephen Carr runs into 3 people. When I know Penix can read that and go,
you get those free 6, 7, 8 yards.
Get the free 6, 7, 8 yards on first down because Penix can get there, and he has shown this season that he will slide, which is very nice.
Praise the Lord.
Makes me feel nice and fuzzy inside. And the third thing is on passing downs, when we're passing the ball, for some reason, our offensive coordinator, Nick Sheridan, has a fetish with having Penix stay in the pocket when, for an absolutely no reason why, there's absolutely no reason why he should stay in the pocket. The offensive line isn't great. The interior offensive line is always getting pushed into his face. Why aren't you creating plays deep down the field where he can create more time by rolling out of the pocket, getting into space, getting into open space where he can see stuff? Again, his problems this year has been because he is A, forcing stuff because of pressure, or B, forcing stuff because of pressure and also can't see down the field. Both of those things are absolutely cured if he has an open line of sight by rolling out of the pocket. That was something I would like to be seen incorporated in the Penn State game.
Yeah, and possibly Nick Sheridan is holding off on some stuff here before you head into this rest of the season Big Ten schedule. I know how you started with Iowa, but from now until the end, right? You hold off on some stuff. I'm really excited to see that it was Penix, Freifogel, Hendershot, and Stephen Carr. Okay, I know you want to see some of the fringe guys step up, but those are your 4 stars. Those are the 4 guys that you're counting on this season to help you succeed on offense. And I'm going to look at this as a glass half full approach right now. Indiana's getting to the red zone and they're not scoring touchdowns. And I'm saying, look, if this offense can just get it into the end zone, they I mean, right? Isn't it funny? Like in week 1, they didn't get into the red zone against Iowa.
No.
And then their next important game against Cincinnati, they got into the red zone and turned it over.
Oh.
And then against Western Kentucky, you got into the red zone and you kicked field goals. Right now,
the logical next step is that we figure it out.
It's like, now let's get it into the end zone, because let's face it, we're going to talk about this in the Penn State thing in just a minute here, but you're not going to beat Penn State by kicking field goals. So you're not going to beat a lot of these teams, frankly, the rest of the season by kicking field goals. So you talk about things you can practice, things you can improve, things you just have to execute on game day, no matter what. Getting the ball across that goal line, it pays off so much for this Indiana offense, because this could have been a 45-24, 49-24 kind of game against Western Kentucky if it went there. The last big note out of this Western Kentucky game was the devastating injury to DJ Matthews, a guy we've called out on this podcast as the diamond in the rough in this offense, or whatever, the breakout star that you need to know on this offense. And he really showed it through 3 games. You look at the kind of performance he put up against the damn good secondary in Cincinnati. He was electric in that Memorial Stadium affair. But the school confirmed that on Saturday night, Matthews tore his ACL fielding a punt, just a really weird play that he got hurt on. And so now, Matt, Indiana's got to look to some other players to step up in that wide receiver 3 slot. You can assume Ty Fryfogel's going to start on one end of the field. You can assume Miles Marshall's going to get the start on the other end. Who are 1 or 2 guys you're looking to potentially see step up here in the slot, playing that 3rd wide receiver role here? Because, hey, Indiana's going to still have to throw the football. Who do you look at as 1 or 2 guys who can step up?
I think there's 2 clear candidates for me. I know David. People turn out David Ellis' name, but I feel like he's more of a running back. He's only been really used as a running back so far this year. There's Cameron Buckley, the transfer from Texas A&M. Yep. There's Malachi Holt-Bennett and Jaquez Smith, who are both freshmen. To me, it's Jacoby Hewitt and Javon Swinton, both sophomores.
Yeah,
we've seen a bunch of Jacoby Hewitt. Everything I've seen from him has been fantastic. Javon Swinton, Penix called him my guy this offseason.
Yeah.
Right. And
he likes both Hewitt and Swinton. It seems, just from my perspective, he has a good relationship with both of those guys.
Yeah. And so for me, that's what is the deal breaker when it comes to figuring out what this is. Look, you're going to want to play the guys that have the best chemistry with your quarterback. Yeah. Cameron Buckley's brand new into the system, transfer this year. Will he maybe see more playing time now because of the injury? Absolutely. But he's not going to be the guy that you're going to be looking to. And obviously, you're going to want the sophomores that have been in your program to step up. And I would like to see both of those guys get a lot more touches, or a lot more targets, I guess, of the ball.
Yeah, I'm curious about Malachi Holt-Bennett. He's someone that Tom Allen mentioned in his press conferences earlier this week. Holt-Bennett is somebody who held an offer from the University of Georgia, held an offer from Ole Miss, and of course, a school like Mississippi is the school that really emphasizes wide receiver play. Holt-Bennett is the nephew of former Bears wide receiver Earl Bennett, who made a living playing out of the slot as he came out of Vanderbilt University. Holt-Bennett is 6'2", 6'3", 180 pounds. No one's asking him to be a superstar from day one.
That's a big slot receiver.
But he's got that intel, right? I'm sure dad or his uncles taught him a few things, and I'm sure he knows the intricacies and the nuances of running out of the slot, or just playing the position, the wide receiver position as it is. I remember a couple of years ago, David Ellis, a player who we hadn't really heard of, went into Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley and had a really strong performance against Penn State. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Malachi Holt-Bennett, maybe if it's just 2 or 3 catches, maybe break a tackle, get a good gain, a good chunk gain, maybe work him into some screens. I really like his look as a player. He was a clear-cut 3-star prospect. The 24/7 Sports rankings specifically, not the composite ones, but just the 24/7 Sports guys, had him as a 4-star wide receiver, but the composite had him as a 3. We normally cite the composite ranking, so normally we'll say that Holt-Bennett was a 3-star receiver, but the 24/7 Sports guys gave him a 90 grade. He comes from the state of Alabama. So really to see which players step up in DJ Matthews' absence. Of course, now you can also expect, I think you can pretty much expect Reese Taylor to handle the punt return duties on a unanimous basis. Don't be surprised, is depending on how the slot situation goes, if Indiana opts to play 2 tight ends a little more. I really like what I'm seeing out of AJ Barner through a few weeks on the season. We know how reliable Matt Bjorson is as a blocker, and if Indiana wants to give the tackle some help, you could see Bjorson into some formations here. So that's the other way you can circumvent losing Matthews for the season. You can throw in an extra tight end, give Michael Penix a little bit extra time, and just have Freifogel and Marshall run routes down the field. So really interesting situation, Matt. Overall, zooming out, how do you look at this Western Kentucky game? Do you look at it and say, hey, win is a win, you got the 2-2, let's head into Big Ten play? Or did you really need to see more out of Indiana? Because I know there are people on both sides of the argument here. I heard plenty of people say, man, Indiana escaped against Western Kentucky by 2 points. They're going to win 4 games this year. I mean, so how do you look at how this Western Kentucky game in a nutshell?
Well, there's a couple of factors here. One is away from home. I don't care. There's only like 5,000 people in the crowd or whatever it was.
It was 23,000. 23,000. It's a program record, by the way.
Yeah.
Program record.
I don't care that we played in the football equivalent of the rack. Okay. I don't care. And playing away in college football has proven to be extremely difficult this year because nobody is used to playing away from home. Now, the good news is we got the crap beat out of us the first time we played away from home, so it couldn't possibly go worse. So that's good. So that's my first takeaway is that, hey, we won on the road. A win is a win. Second takeaway is got the offense back on track. I don't care that it was just Western Kentucky, but this is a Western Kentucky team that was a bit pesky, and the offense had to play well, and they did. We won the game because of them.
They just didn't put the ball in the freaking end zone, but like they did.
It's confidence. It's confidence building. It's confidence building for Penix as well. Yeah. We've seen the progression. He had an absolutely terrible game. He had a game where he didn't have to do anything against Idaho because he was getting basically carried by every other facet of the game. He played decently well against Cincinnati until late on in the game when it was up to him to force things, and then all of a sudden it went downhill from there. And then finally he had to play well in this game and showed up and played exactly how we thought he would. So now he gets to go play a familiar foe in Penn State next week, which he's already had success against. By the way, last year was not his best game, still won the game regardless without him. So we'll see. We're going to need him obviously in Happy Valley. And then the third reason why it's a good win, and that is because honestly, it was just nice to see IU be in a close game. And that's a weird thing to say. It
is weird. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
But when we win, it's like we win by 20 or something, and it's like it's over. Or
except that Penn State game last year.
Right. Except the Penn State. But if we lose, it's like, okay, we're in it at the end, and then all of a sudden we look up the scoreboard and we're down 14. It was nice that in a close game we came out on top and won and came through in the fourth quarter and clutched the game out. That was nice for me to see. Decision making by the coaching staff at the end of the game, I didn't have any gripes with at all, which has not been par for the course for this tenure for the Tom Allen staff. So overall, I think it was a win.
So I wanted to see more style points. All right.
Yeah, but like
I really did. Okay. And then look, I've talked about areas where I liked all the things that you liked, but I can't help get into that frame of mind that I think some of the pessimistic Hoosier fans have gotten into here, where you say, look, if you beat these guys by 2 points, how do you expect me to believe your chances are all that great against Penn State or Michigan State or Ohio State or Maryland or Michigan or Rutgers or Minnesota or Purdue, maybe Minnesota, and that's the rest of the schedule. All I'm saying is I'm not smashing the panic button, right? Break glass in case of emergency, everyone evacuate, nothing like that, but I wanted to see Indiana, especially, there in person. I felt like And you could probably attribute this to the DJ Matthews injury as well as David Ellis, who left the game in the first half. At Indiana, there was sort of this cast, the shadow cast over Houchin Smith Stadium on Saturday, this pall that came down and sort of created this difficult uphill battle for Indiana. They just kind of got into this lull and never really snapped out of it. They made some plays, they didn't make some plays, and they just kind of felt like they were treading water and just trying to gasp, get to the finish line and gasp for breath at the end. They did it. They got the win. But man, like, I think every game from here on is winnable. But I also think I've seen enough where every game from here on out is kind of losable. So I guess just buckle up, right? That's really what the moral of the story is.
Here's my gripe with that. And I think it's a cause of the pandemic and people forget this. But group of 5 programs like Western Kentucky are not bad. Like, people talk down on Cincinnati, Western Kentucky. Like, you insert a power of Tulane, right? Like, you insert, but if you look through
UCF, Memphis,
you put a program in there that's a group of 5, except for UConn. Don't talk about UConn. But you put a group of 5 program in there, you put them up against a Power 5 program, and you look this year, especially this year, how Power 5 programs have done against them. You're going to understand that what IU did on Saturday to go away from home and get a win is actually huge. Again, Georgia State almost beat Auburn last Saturday, by the way. Colorado State almost kept it close with Iowa.
They had the halftime lead.
At Iowa. I can definitely remember Tulane week 1 beating Oklahoma. Like, this
almost, right? It was almost close. Yeah, almost.
They were beating Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Point. Got it. Yep.
So
Toledo almost beat Notre Dame.
Toledo almost beat Notre Dame in South Bend. Yeah, exactly. This is not something to overreact about. This is something to exhale and be like, thank God we won that game. Because these programs have bridged the gap with the top programs. More like nobody in college football is good. Like, I'm not sure there's a single good football team. I've had people on Twitter tell me that Georgia is good, but I go and look at Georgia's resume. I go, okay, they beat Vanderbilt into 1908. Right? They basically beat them out of existence of their football program. But are we sure that Vanderbilt's even a Power 5 football program?
I think I saw Vanderbilt and UConn are playing each other either like this week or next week.
That's disgusting.
It's this week. Yeah,
that's must-watch TV just to see how bad.
ESPNU.
I honestly want to watch that game. No, that's going to be terrible. Like, Vanderbilt's like, okay, cool, whatever. You beat, the school. I don't know. You beat third graders as college students in football. Like, regulars.
Vanderbilt and UConn. Wow.
And then they played Clemson, and we've seen how Clemson is played. Clemson did not deserve to be ranked this week, by the way. Texas deserved to be ranked top 25, and they got robbed because somehow Clemson ended up losing.
Did not deserve it one bit.
No, and they look terrible. And remember, Georgia only beat them 14-10 to start the year. So are we really sure that Georgia's all this good? And then everybody else, like Alabama, and then everyone else, like
Clemson's not there. Ohio State's not there. Oregon, maybe. Oklahoma's not there.
Everybody looks bad. Everyone looks bad, except for Penn State. Penn State has looked pretty decent.
I'll talk to you about them.
Okay,
in a minute.
All right, let's transition. All right,
so here we go. First, we're going to dive into our social media shout out. And I just wanted to say there were a couple things that really caught my attention. I told you about Mike Woodson and his Twitter account went out and posted a really nice, it was like 45 seconds or a minute long of him just addressing the team during a practice, saying how important it is to do things with urgency. You can follow Mike Woodson at Mike Woodson NBA. I don't know. He hasn't changed it yet. Whatever. Doesn't matter. He's got 22,500 followers. You can go add to that number whenever you get the chance to. I also saw Tom Allen after the game Saturday night echoed a lot of the things I think Matt was mentioning earlier about how going into Western Kentucky on the road is just really hard. And this entire first segment of the schedule has been hard. And next Saturday, as in a couple days from now, it's going to be hard. But you know what? Tom Allen, again, you go watch that. I think it's a minute 30. You watch it and you go, okay, if nothing else, this team is bought into his message. And Michael Penix Jr. won the game ball. The team continues to practice that LEO mindset. It's not just an empty phrase, an empty slogan there. I saw Michael Ziemba, a defensive end we haven't really heard of much this season, put his arm around Penix, smack him on his chest, say, yeah, you the man, really bought in atmosphere. It was hard, wasn't easy, but Indiana ended up getting that 2-point win down in Bowling Green. So let's go. Penn State on Saturday. The Nittany Lions are the 4th-ranked team in the country in the AP Top 25 poll. They're 5th in the ESPN S&P Plus ratings with the 18th-ranked offense in the country and the 6th-ranked defense. Just for comparison's sake, IU has really slumped in the ESPN S&P Plus ratings. They're now 61st in college football with a 71st rated offense, and the defense really took a hit. They've slipped to 49th in that metric. Penn State's got a lot of great players, right? The head coach is James Franklin. The quarterback is Sean Clifford, who's really seen his game take another step up this season. Great wide receiver group of the Jihad Dodson and Parker Washington, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Questionable running game, questionable offensive line, questionable at tight end. Great defensive players, guys like linebackers Jesse Luketa and Brandon Smith. Safety Jaquan Brisker will play in the NFL. Defensive tackle PJ Mustipher is a superstar in the Big Ten. And corners Joey Porter and Tariq Castro Fields will try to slow down Indiana's receivers. So what I was getting to you, I look at Penn State and I've seen their schedule through 4 games. And remember when Indiana beat Penn State and Michigan last year, and then Penn State and Michigan went on to lose a bunch of games, and Indiana said, and people said, Indiana hasn't beaten anybody. Well, Penn State beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin hadn't done anything. Penn State beat Auburn. What's Auburn done? They were a play away. And I know you look at the score, Auburn won by 10. That was the game Auburn was 30 seconds from losing. They scored on a 4th and goal or a 4th down in the red zone with like 30 seconds to go to take a 3-point lead. And then they got a pick 6 or a fumble recovery, a defensive score for a touchdown. I'm looking at Penn State and I see a team that hasn't lost a fumble this year. I see a Penn State team that has a lot of questions on offense. They've gotten an extremely disproportionate percentage of red zone stops. I remember in week 1, Wisconsin was driving down the field at will, only to drop a snap in the end zone or throw a pick in the end zone. Man, even Penn State is a team. I know Indiana's a 12.5-point underdog, but as I said earlier, I think they're beatable.
I've said over and over on this podcast, everybody in college football is beatable this year. Penn State is absolutely beatable. Now they have Perry Ellis, a.k.a. Sean Clifford, as their quarterback. I feel like he's been at Penn State for 12 years. I feel like we started this podcast talking about Sean Clifford at Penn State, and we're still here talking about Sean Clifford at Penn State 218 episodes later.
Yeah. Right.
Jihad Dodson's a really good receiver. I feel like Penn State has had one good receiver every single year for like the last 10 years. True. So Jihad Dodson is this guy this year. Really good, but he's going to have to go up against by far the best secondary he's played. By far. And IU. I think the S&P Plus ratings are based off the fact that, oh, wow, look, you gave up 400 and something yards to Western Kentucky, but then you look at they're averaging like 560 yards through the air a game, and they were like 150 yards below their average. And you go, how did that happen?
Yeah. Well, and look, I just I don't know. I just think it's a little harsh. By no means am I saying Indiana should be in the top 10 or whatever, but I just think it's a little harsh. Penn State is a 12.5-point favorite. They're over under 53.5. So if you can do the math there, that's something like a 33-21 final, give or take a point. So you can see what the odds makers are predicting there. It's a 7:30 Eastern kickoff that will be televised on ABC. That's going to be Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath and Todd Blackledge. That's the broadcast crew. Blackledge was a former Penn State player. I don't know how they were able to pull off that deal, so you can expect somewhat biased commentary on the TV Saturday night. Whatever, doesn't really affect the outcome of the game. Just keep an eye out for it. He won the national championship in the 80s with Penn State, so I mean, he's going to he's going to talk
football
about it.
And getting biased commentators. Name more.
Every time we play
on Fox Sports, there's some Ohio State alum announcing the game, and every time we play on ESPN, it's some alum of the school that we're playing this announcing the game, or they call him in. Like every time we play Maryland, they call Scott Van Pelt for some darn reason.
Right? Yeah,
and
I remember that for basketball. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it's like, oh my goodness, just. ESPN.
Well,
ESPN being ESPN.
I just think you could have made your life easier. I don't know if maybe they think having a person who's sort of in the know about Penn State helps to broadcast. I don't make these decisions. Who knows? It is the first time Indiana is on the ABC primetime game ever, like since they introduced it in 2005, 2006. So that's a pretty noteworthy accomplishment for this school. I think Sean McDonough especially is someone who's a really good play-by-play guy. At the end of the day, right? I mean, look, the recipe, you're going to have to prepare as if you can beat Penn State by 30, because you know how it is in Big Ten play. You're going to need some breaks. You're going to need some bounces, but you're not going to get it from the officials. That's for sure. I mean, there are going to be missed holding calls. There are going to be missed pass interferences. They're going to be missed targeting calls where a Penn State guy should be thrown out of the game, but he won't. So just keep that in mind as you're watching. It's better to, and I think Tom Allen even knows this. He's never going to admit it, but he's going to prepare his team as if, hey, it's you against the world on Saturday night. You've just got to figure out how to come away with the win. Matt, as I look at keys to the game, as I look at ways Indiana can potentially get out of Happy Valley with a win for the first time in program history, I think I saw Indiana's 0-11 thus far at Beaver Stadium. To me, the key is touchdowns, not field goals, and play clean football, because you're going to need a couple bounces to go your way. You're going to need Penn State to muff a punt that you recover. You're going to need Penn State to fumble a snap that you recover. You're going to need Penn State to maybe drop a pass or two.
Absolutely.
Like Indiana has done in environments through 3 weeks so far, right? Remember the first game, DJ Matthews slips out of the break, ball goes through his hand, slips, bobbles, intercepted Iowa, pick six, right? Indiana against Cincinnati, Tim Baldwin fumbles the ball inside the 5-yard line, or Micah McFadden gets ejected on a real ticky-tack targeting call. So you're going to need a couple bounces to go your way, but as far as controlling what you can control, play a clean game. Don't try to hit a home run on every pitch. Don't try to hit the ball out of the park on every pitch. Keep this game competitive. Look, hey, if you execute all your plays perfectly and you score touchdowns, be my guest. But if you play a clean game, a competitive game, and you make this thing close going into the fourth quarter, if you just keep it close, 2017, 23-20, all the pressure is on Penn State Saturday night. All of it. There isn't an ounce of pressure that's on Indiana's shoulders. Penn State's the top 4 team right now. Penn State's the team that's trying to live up to their tradition, live up to their name, or at least what they think it is as a college football powerhouse. They can't afford to slip up, especially with the road trip to Iowa City coming up a week from Saturday. So just play it clean, play it competitive. You can keep it close. Indiana's clearest advantage in this one is in the kicking game. Indiana's got a lock at kicker. Penn State's got major question marks there. So if you can keep it close, keep it interesting, play clean, you've got a shot. As you look at this game, Matt, what are 1 or 2 things you're looking at for Indiana to come out on top in a game where they're going into it as 12.5-point underdogs.
Well, third time's the charm when it comes to playing top teams. You can't turn over the ball. I think I
especially the really stupid ones, you know?
Yeah, stupid ones. Like we win that Cincinnati game if we win the turnover battle, but we clearly didn't.
Yeah.
We let them in too much. We have to keep the ball. I don't care if it means throwing it away and punting the ball, but you got to take care of the ball. You can't have huge momentum swinging plays. And that's the key on Saturday. You got to limit the big momentum swinging plays. Giving the ball up on fourth down because you called some stupid 4th and 1 call.
Try to take the crowd out of it.
Try to take the crowd out of the game. They're going to be in there in the fourth quarter. By the way, I'm predicting this to be us to cover. This is going to be a close game. They're going to beat it in the fourth quarter. The team also has to be prepared. They struggled in Iowa with crowd noise. Yep. I was there. I saw it myself, especially in that first quarter when the fans were really up for it and the team was still in the game until they weren't. They've really struggled with crowd noise. Penn State's a whole different beast than Iowa. Iowa's loud. Yeah. Penn State's deafening. So they're going to have to really be prepared. No mistakes. And the offensive line has to play even better than they have.
Yeah. You just keep improving.
Yeah.
Keep improving. I mean, I will say
they have to have the best game of the season.
Saturday night, I saw Caleb Jones knock some guys to the ground. I saw Dylan Powell do his job out of center. Keep improving. I see what you're saying. Just keep getting better there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I genuinely think we keep this close. So I guess this is when I segue, Nithin, which is final score prediction.
Ooh, look, Indiana, Penn State, like it's every installment in this rivalry has been weird. Every one. 2020 was weird. 2019, Indiana went into Beaver Stadium when Penn State was whatever top 15, top 20 team, and no one was really expecting Indiana, who was 7-2 going into that game, to really keep it close. And frankly, if they called a targeting penalty on Whop Fillier after Whop Fillier got smashed on his head and was forced to exit that game in the first half, who knows what would have happened. If Indiana didn't botch a fake punt in 2019 coming out of halftime, who knows what could happen. Every one of these games seem to be weird. They seem to, so buckle up. It's going to be a roller coaster ride. I think Penn State's going to have just a little bit too much in the tank. I'm still concerned about Indiana's offense. And I think this Penn State game's coming at a rough time. I mean, what are the odds, right? You face 3 top 10 teams in the country in your first 5 weeks. I mean, that's just a really rough. I mean, I know Iowa wasn't top 10 when the Hoosiers played them, but looking at how things stand right now, what are the odds you make 3 top 10 teams in the first 5 weeks? It's rough. I think Indiana really needs this bye week that's coming up a week from Saturday. I think they just don't have enough to beat Penn State. I've got 27-20 Nittany Lions. How about you?
See, I think the opposite. I think IU's got enough to beat them.
Ooh.
I just don't think it's going to happen, which is a little bit different. I'm taking we lose in heartbreaking fashion like we normally do. 31-24 in overtime. So I think it's 24-24 at the end of regulation.
Yeah, Penn State gets the ball first.
Charles Campbell kicks a field goal to tie the game, 24-24.
Oh, man, really?
And then Penn State scores touchdown first. And then IU can't answer with their own because the play calling in the red zone comes back to bite us in the butt, and we lose the game 31-24.
By the way, I did want to mention one other player on this Penn State defense that I overlooked earlier. Arnold Abecady, a defensive end, a pass rusher. He transferred over from Temple to play for Penn State this season. He's already got 2 sacks under his belt through 4 games. And of course, with Indiana's offensive line situation being the way it is, Abecady could be somebody who really gets into that backfield frequently. You remember the Penn State pass rushers in the past, guys like Yetur Gross-Matos and Shaka Tony and Jason Owe, who's now known as Ofade Owe with the Baltimore Ravens. But at the end of the day, Abecady, even though he's a grad transfer, he seems to be next in line as far as NFL defensive ends out of PSU. So that's what Matt and I think about this game. I would not be surprised. Game kicks off at 7:30, clock strikes 10, and this one is still a nail biter. If you're going out Saturday night, make sure you get home by 10 or you find a TV around 10 o'clock, because I think right about that time is when this thing, you'll see a score or you'll get a text from your friends or whatever saying, hey, it was a close game. Yes, Indiana's in it. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say, though, is I feel like Penn State's gotten a little fortunate this season, and they've got kicker problems. And all I'm saying is if Indiana can expose that sort of stuff, things could get really interesting as far as Indiana pulling off a historic win for the first time ever at Beaver Stadium.
One more thing goes with not making mistakes. If Penn State scores a special teams touchdown, the game is over. You cannot let them score a kickoff or a punt return.
No, you can't.
They have some explosive playmakers. It's going to be tough. Cincinnati took one against us. Cincinnati is not known for having fantastic playmakers.
Nope.
Penn State's got some explosive guys like Matthews, right? For our team, right? Mm-hmm. There's guys that can just take a play that's supposed to go 5 yards and take it to the house.
Yeah.
And so we have to be extremely careful. No big plays. Plays.
Well, and you think about Penn State, especially. I remember in 2017, it was Saquon Barkley who took the opening kick back for a touchdown in Happy Valley. Crowd went crazy. And then the following year in 2018 in Bloomington, they had a kick return down to I think they returned one kickoff to the IU40 or to the IU45, and then another one all the way down to the IU 5-yard line. And they were just able to punch it in with Miles Sanders. I vividly remember that. So absolutely. That's a great point there. So we're going to put a bow on the IU Penn State preview. We asked all of you at home on our weekly podcast poll over at the Hoosier Sound who you got in this game, who wins and by how much. And so far, a ton of responses have come in. Over 100 have come in just over an hour. Right now, 26% of you say Penn State will win by 13 or more. So you're saying Penn State will win and cover. 35% of you say Penn State will win between 1 and 12 points. So Penn State will win not covered. And 39% of you drinking the Kool-Aid, feeling a little confident. 39% of you say Indiana will walk into Penn State University and come out with a victory. So make sure you cast your vote here. Still plenty of time. That poll will be up for a couple of days here going into kickoff on Saturday night. Let's wrap up things the way we normally do here on the Hoosier Sound during football season, Matt. Let's make some Big Ten picks of the week. Last week was an interesting one. I'm gonna toot our own horn here. We both said Notre Dame underdogs against Wisconsin at Soldier Field was ridiculous. Yeah. And normally we like to pick different upset picks, but that was one where both of us were on the same page and said Notre Dame's going to beat the Badgers. And not only did Notre Dame win, they won by 28. And yeah, I know a couple scores came on defensive plays or whatever at the end. Don't care. Notre Dame crushed them. So, Matt, as you look at the Big Ten slate this week, give me a pick against the spread and give me an upset pick as we head into the first full-on week of conference action in Big Ten play.
So my cover is how is Iowa only favored by 3 against Maryland? I get Maryland is 4-0, but what is
Iowa, right?
So is Iowa, and Iowa's beating us and Iowa State on the road. What are we watching? I'm not quite sure. And then my upset pick, I actually have it IU centered upset. Actually, I don't because I just looked at the lines again. How is Wisconsin favored against Michigan? What have they watched? I was going to pick Western Kentucky to beat Michigan State, but I'm not. I'm even more certain about Michigan beating Wisconsin. That's a clearly easy pick. Who Who
I
are
agree.
the?
I agree with you completely.
What are we doing here?
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's in Camp Randall, but
What are we doing here? Like,
I
this
don't
doesn't
know.
make any sense. Vegas, hello. You
Hello.
like losing money? I'm sorry.
My pick against the spread this week is going to be Purdue covering 2.5 against Minnesota. I know Purdue star wide receiver David Bell had some concussion issues coming out of that Notre Dame game a week and a half ago, but still, I think Purdue at home, 2.5 point favorites. It's not enough. I think Minnesota is especially in a point of vulnerability right now after their horrible home loss last week to Bowling Green.
Yeah.
I got Purdue covering 2.5 on Saturday afternoon. And then my upset pick, every time I see Nebraska getting favored, I'm picking the other side. So I've got Northwestern. And I know Northwestern hasn't looked all that great this year. But
that's why you saw this confused look on my face. I was looking down the line. I didn't even see that Nebraska was favored by almost two scores.
I think you're getting really good bang for your buck there. I think the money line for Northwestern is something like plus 320 or plus 330 at this point. So, for every dollar you bet, you win $3.30. And
can I get a third upset pick? we've got Wisconsin to lose. So Michigan to beat Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Northwestern to beat Nebraska. Can I pick Charlotte to beat Illinois?
Sure. Go for it.
Can I 11 for Illinois to beat 1-4 Illinois to beat Charlotte at home? By the way, 3-1 Charlotte. What are we looking at here from the Illinois program other than absolute abysmal football? I'm not sure do they even belong in the Big Ten football anymore? I'm not sure.
I mean, Charlotte's already beaten Duke this season in non-conference play. And so even though that game was at the campus of the University of Charlotte, I could definitely see Charlotte going into Champaign and winning. There are 8 games involving Big Ten teams this week. I wouldn't be surprised if underdogs won 4 of them, at least 4 of them. So, you see what we're saying here on the Hoosier Sound as far as our upset picks are concerned and our picks against the spread as well. I like it. We got Michigan, Northwestern, and Charlotte. We normally just give out one upset pick each. I'm on board with this. I'm on board with us throwing out 3 of them. So really, because I mean, I'm completely for it. So that's how we see this week playing out in the Big Ten. It's just great to see these conference matchups. I mean, let's go. I mean, the October is here and it's going to be really intense football here. So many games probably coming down to the last possession. I mean, I'm looking at Alabama, Ole Miss should be a great game. Georgia, Arkansas should be a great game. Cincinnati, Notre Dame should be a great game.
Saturday's going to be fun.
I just want to be on the record saying I also think Cincinnati will cover against Notre Dame, win and cover in South Bend on Saturday afternoon. So
I agree.
Matt, as we wind down, what are your closing thoughts here? Indiana's 2-2. Kind of a no pressure. I mean, there's going to be pressure for Tom Allen. Tom Allen thinks he can win this one, but generally speaking, as an outsider, kind of a no pressure game for Indiana on Saturday. Of course, we also started this episode talking about Hoosier Hysteria. What's on your mind here as you wrap up episode 219?
I don't think this IU football program gets enough credit for the schedule they've played so far.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point that out. I think they have played 2 of the 4 college football playoff teams. I think you can tell. I will say that now. I think Iowa will be the representative for the Big Ten. I think their defense is good enough to make Ohio State look bad, and their offense is good enough to beat Ohio State's defense. They should beat everybody else because they play everybody else at home, and they play Wisconsin on the road. But who is Wisconsin anyways? Other than phony.
Who is Wisconsin?
And you look at Cincinnati. If they win this weekend, which we both agree, Nithin and I agree, they will win in Notre Dame this weekend. They will make the college football playoff, barring some absolutely terrible, abysmal injury luck. They will make it in. They will have the resume to do so. They will beat us, who I think will have a nice finish at the end of the year. Then they will have the best win in college football away at Notre Dame. That's not going to get much better because Notre Dame is going to run the table with the rest of the ACC. When you look at the worst Power 5 conference this year,
such a bad
they're terrible. So we would have played 2 of the 4 playoff contestants so far, which is unlucky.
Crazy.
Unlucky to say the least. But It is what it is.
Absolutely. Hey, and by the way, Indiana heads to Cincinnati next year, by the way, for the return leg of the home and home series. So just keep that in mind. Of course, you definitely would expect a lot of Cincinnati star players to head to the NFL. Would not be surprised if IU was actually a favorite to win that game in Cincinnati next year. But like you said, really funny how that worked out.
I wouldn't be surprised to see their head coach head off somewhere else either. Like, I know some people are like, well, I got in the Big 12 now. Like he's going to stay. It's like,
maybe I don't know.
Going to stay if USC is like,
well, it's not just USC either, right?
I mean, more a year. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of head coaching jobs open this year.
University of Washington going to open up their coaching job. What are some other schools in the Big 10 that could open up? Who knows? We'll see how that all plays out. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, Matt, you covered it all, right? Hoosier Hysteria should be really fun. I mean, Saturday, like, I don't know. I can't fully remember what my mindset and attitude was in the months leading up to Archie Miller's first game as IU basketball head coach. And I can't say that I was an IU basketball expert in the days leading up to Tom Crean's first game as IU basketball head coach. But I don't know, just contrasting the aura, the atmosphere, the environment around this program up through March 2021, when Scott Dolson made a very bold move to change leadership at the top of the men's basketball program. I just get a better vibe right now. And of course, we'll see how things react and respond, how the team reacts and responds after they lose their first game, or after they lose their second game, or after they lose back-to-back games in Big Ten play. But I feel a good vibe around IU men's basketball right now, and we'll see it kick into action on Saturday afternoon, I should say. But that about wraps it up for our 219th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to our live audience. You're all beautiful people. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we will see you next